So this is the 0150 hours GMT edition of the KHOODEELAARTV television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of the BABY Angel Geronimo Editions on Friday, the 22nd of September 2023. One of the things that we planned to discuss was the Ken Livingstone, reportedly having been diagnosed with having Alzheimer's disease. So Ken Livingstone Alzheimer's. Let's see what the update on that one is. His family said, in response to media inquiries, the Livingstone family today announced that Ken Livingstone, ex-member for Parliament for Brent and former mayor of London, has been diagnosed with and is living with Alzheimer's disease. Although a previously prominent public figure, Ken is now retired and lives a private life. Ken is being well cared for by his family and friends, and we ask you for your understanding and to respect his privacy and that of his family. Alzheimer's is a physical illness that damages the brain. The Alzheimer's Society says it is the most common cause of dementia in the United Kingdom. Mr. Livingstone was a prominent figure in London politics from the 1970s. In his heyday, Red Ken was a thorn in the side both of Margaret Thatcher's Tories and later New Labour under Tony Blair. In defiance of the Labour Party, Mr. Livingstone stood as an independent to become the directly elected mayor of London when the powerful post was first created, etc., etc. Now, this is something that obviously will be discussed in detail by other parties. But there is another item which is completely shocking. It says Sadiq Khan announces London Policing Board to help scrutinize the Met. What a fucking stupid shit. The London Police doesn't exist. And the reason why London Police doesn't exist is because of the non-existence of the likes of Sadiq Khan, the complete moron. It says in the Evening Standard piece, the board was set up in line with the recommendation in the review of the culture and standards in the Metropolitan Police by Baroness Casey. Fuck her. There is too much lies in this. So what we shall be doing, we shall be incorporating all the details of the disappearance of the police in London over the last 100 years and the role played by the likes of Sadiq Khan, Ken Livingstone Livingstone et al. In the disappearance of the police. And this is a coincidence, isn't it? This is the week when news comes of the first time a racist murderer, London policeman, being prosecuted for murder, charged with murder of a black man. Now, the police have been murdering black men for too long, or for always. Ken Livingstone Livingstone disgraced the politics of London. And in the disgracing of the politics of London, undermining democracy, undermining the idea of accountability by public organizations and individuals like the police, Ken Livingstone Livingstone contributed significantly to the destruction of society in London. And the line that the BBC is running, that he was a thorn in the side for Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair, etc., etc., it is absolute lies. That he was a contrast. Ken Livingstone Livingstone was as dishonest, as corrupt as any of the others. And the whole idea of Ken Livingstone Livingstone producing with Ted Knight the corrupt so-called radical Labour Herald, the weekly paper that was supposedly funded with money given to them by Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. There was nothing in the Labour Herald, that actually represented the people, the lives of the people in London. It was a block, propaganda block. And this role of the Labour Herald in creating Ken Livingstone as the kind of ultimate leader was transferred to Caribbean Times, Riffraff Ali, and instead of Gaddafi's money, Riffraff Ali was given money that belonged to the people of London, the Greater London Council money. Significant amount of that money was given to Riffraff Ali, and it became a enslaved outlet that bore the name of Caribbean Times, but actually served the purpose of promoting the ego of Ken Livingstone and the regime that he fronted at the GLC. Now, this is KHOODEELAARTV television channel being broadcast under the banner of BABY Angel Geronimo Editions. And what we are saying is world exclusive original. You will not find it anywhere, absolutely anywhere on the internet or in print or in sound, because nobody else has the actual evidence. Empirical evidence, direct evidence, and consistent evidence running for more than 50 years. And the collapse of the Greater London Council, which was eventually abolished in 1986 by the regime of Margaret Thatcher, was directly due to Ken Livingstone and his egotistic, selfish promotion of himself. A time came during the second decade of this century. This is the third decade, so second decade would be 2010 until 2020, when the Communist Party, Morning Star, ran regular pieces with bylines given to Jeremy Corbyn, George Galloway, and Ken Livingstone. Now, because they called it the title Communist Party newspaper, Morning Star, it was suggested in their kind of assumption that anything that appeared in the paper would be consistent with the objective definition, objective criteria, and the objective narrative of socialism. Nothing could be further from the truth, because none of these individuals is a socialist, and Ken Livingstone most certainly isn't one. Ken Livingstone tried to create a fiefdom in Tower Hamlets. Where does he go? He doesn't go to the kind of secular part of the demography in Tower Hamlets. He doesn't go to the ordinary people of Tower Hamlets, but he goes straight into the most notorious, secretive, corrupt political kind of outfit based on the complex of buildings called the East London Mosque. Now, these people are called the Jamaat-e-Islami. The Jamaat-e-Islami is the most secretive outfit that you could find in Bangladesh and Bangladeshi politics. And it should not be entertained in the United Kingdom, because more than 95% of the people who are of Bangladeshi origin are actually British citizens. So they are not Bangladeshi citizens. So what on earth are they doing indulging in Bangladesh-based politics? And Ken the British secret services know that. So whatever they organized between Ken Livingstone, Livingstone and these people was part of the British state arranging it. And the main achievement was to deter the spontaneous democracy developing in the community, to defend the community's basic democratic rights in the United Kingdom. But because the Jamaat-e-Islami is discredited politically and socially within the Bangladeshi community generally, Ken Livingstone and his advisors in the intelligence services based their relationship with them on the possibility of being able to exploit these people, which they have done and have been doing. Because the Jamaat-e-Islami linked individuals are morally completely compromised and they have no record whatsoever of actually confronting, directly confronting the racist British state, the anti-Muslim British state whatsoever. And this is only part of their actual agenda. Their actual agenda is to suppress the ordinary Muslim population of the Bangladeshi origins in the United Kingdom, based in Tower Hamlets in the main. And these are the people that were open to be abused to foist the unelected anti-democratic post of elected mayor on the people of Tower Hamlets in 2010. When Ken Livingstone was giving Margaret Thatcher and her regime the various pretexts and excuses for the Conservatives, fronted by Margaret Thatcher, to destroy any idea of democracy that could be found in the presence of the GLC, they actually undermined and destroyed the democratic demands and the democratic criticism of Margaret Thatcher's regime and the policies of Margaret Thatcher. There was no sign in the 1980s of the Jamaat-e-Islami in the way that it became apparent later. Because in the 1980s, the East London Mosque complex was yet to be completely built. Now, the East London Mosque itself is the venue for ordinary Muslims to come and say prayers, but they are a different category altogether. The elements that actually control the East London Mosque agenda are nothing to do with the Musallis, the ordinary Muslims that come to the East London Mosque to say their ordinary prayers. They are completely disenfranchised and they have absolutely no access to anything, any information that relates to what these people are up to in the name of the East London Mosque. They have been there, a cabal of the East London Mosque kind of committee individuals. This is a same set of individuals that have been there from the beginning of the commencement of the East London Mosque complex operations from the Whitechapel Road in the 1980s. And they have a secret army. The secret army of mainly young members of the kind of families of the cabals. They operate as a gang of thugs to intimidate ordinary Muslims, mainly ordinary Muslims of Bangladeshi background and origins. Because numerically, the Muslim demography in Tower Hamlets is predominantly the majority is of Bangladeshi origin and descent. And this is the secret army that actually operates And the likely challenge to the cabal controlling the Eastern Mosque would come from the Bangladeshi community. And because of that, the thugs that are operated with the aim to intimidate the Bangladeshi community. And the other factor, of course, is the agenda that is to do with the Jamaat-e-Islami's agenda in Bangladesh itself. There are two groups of politically active thugs that are engaged in Bangladesh based politics but engaged in their thuggery in Tower Hamlets. One is the Awami League and the other is the Jamaat Islami. No other party belonging to any other political party based in Bangladesh has got any organized gang of thugs like these two. So Ken Lyingstone Livingstone, claiming to be a socialist, what on earth was he doing getting himself involved with the Jamaat Islami of Bangladesh in the name of Bangladesh? Because he has nothing but contempt for ordinary democracy in the United Kingdom. He most certainly would not have any respect for the people of Bangladesh or Bangladeshi origin Muslims. We shall be talking about that and we shall be doing that part of the Baby Angel Geronimo essay, but a sub part of the analysis of the news that Ken Lyingstone Livingstone has been diagnosed with having Alzheimer's disease. The timing is significant, and there was no indication that this was coming. So, obviously, in time, the timing will be explained and become clear. When he was at the GLC, Ken Lyingstone Livingstone operated a gang of thugs to prevent me from entering the GLC's headquarters, County Hall. In order to solely stop me from getting access to County Hall, Ken Lyingstone Livingstone hired increasing number of thugs, security guards, who physically blocked, who would physically block my entrance to the County Hall. Now I had a valid, legally valid access pass to enter the County Hall. Why? Because I was a duly appointed by the local community, duly appointed representative of the community in Tower Hamlets to represent it on the forum that had been set up as part of the Inner London Education Authority. So they were sabotaging, openly violating the law. And they were doing that thuggishly because they were scared of being exposed to democratic scrutiny, democratic audit. If you read the 5th of March 1992 piece in the Observer and the Guardian, the angry messiah of E1, that is me. The piece that dedicated to attacking me was part of the continuation of the agenda, the narrative of Ken Lyingstone Livingstone blocking democracy in the 1980s. And that is a piece that contains Ken Lyingstone Livingstone admitting that he had been abusing his position to stop me. There is, of course, a has to be of the news that has been released about Rupert Murdoch stepping down as head of his Fox News operations and handing over to Lachlan, his eldest son, the reign. And one of the first to comment and condemn Rupert Murdoch is the Australian Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Turnbull, Malcolm Turnbull, who has accused Murdoch of having used his media to destroy the world's democracy. And I would say very similar things that I've been saying it even before hearing anything to do with Malcolm Turnbull or anyone else. That Ken Livingstone has destroyed democracy in the United Kingdom to the extent that he could destroy it. And as I have said, in London particularly, Ken Livingstone has destroyed democracy. Remember what we are looking for. We are looking for the piece in the Observer. This is not the 5th of March, it's the Observer has got let's check the this is the Guardian that has got on the 5th of March this piece about me, against me. So what it says is that the angry Messiah of Yuan, as the fiery campaigner or the radical journalist, Muhammad Haque could have been the hero of an R.K. Narayan novel. Now, this is the first sentence in Sarah Bosley's piece on the 5th of March 1992. Read that again. As the fiery campaigner or the radical journalist, Muhammad Haque could have been the hero of an R.K. Narayan novel. Now, who is R.K. Narayan? R.K. Narayan is no longer alive, but R.K. Narayan is Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Narayanaswamy, better known as R.K. Narayan, who was born on the 10th of October 1906 and died on the 13th of May 2001, was an Indian writer and novelist, known for his work set in the fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. He was a leading author of early Indian literature in English, along with Mulk Raj Anand and Raja Rao. Narayan's mentor and friend, Graham Greene, was instrumental in getting publishers for Narayan's first 4 books including the semi-autobiographical trilogy of Shami and Friends, The Bachelor of Arts, The English Teacher. The fictional town of Malgudi was first introduced in Shami and Friends. The financial expert was hailed as one of the most original works of 1951 and Sahitya Academy Award winner. The guide was adapted, etc., etc. Now let's see how they summarize him, R.K. Narayan, and what is the significance of the Indian writer being mentioned to describe essentially a very non-Indian person born in Assam, which is in Bangladesh now, a person of independent international outlook like me. What on earth was the Guardian thinking of putting me in the frame of R.K. Narayan's fictions? So they say that his writing style is, well, that is what the entry on the Wikipedia is saying. It focused on ordinary people, reminding the reader of next door neighbors, cousins, and the like, thereby providing a greater ability to relate to the public topic. Unlike his national contemporaries, Narayan was able to write about the intricacies of Indian society without having to modify his characteristic simplicity to conform to conform to trends. Well, it's a wrong word. It should be conform, but they've written conform to trends and fashions in fiction writing. So that is the writing style. What is the impact? Malgudi. Malgudi is a fictional, fully urban town in southern India, conjured by Narayan. He created the town in September 1930 on an auspicious day to start new efforts and thus chosen for him by his grandfather. As he mentioned in a later interview to his biographer Suzanne and R. N. Ram, in his mind he first saw a railway station and slowly that name Malgudi came to him. The town was created with an impeccable historical record dating to the Ramayana days when it was noted that Lord Rama passed through. It is also said that the Buddha visited the town during his travels. While Narayan never provided strict physical constraints for the town, he allowed it to form shape with events in various stories, becoming a reference point for the future. Dr. James Fennelly, a scholar of Narayan's works, created a map of Malgudi based on the fictional descriptors of the town from the many books and stories, etc., etc. So, I mean, I was put as part of a character in Malgudi, let's say. So I was internationalized in the first sentence, that is byline to this racist Sarah Bosley, who then proceeds in the second sentence to downgrade me. Now that is a contradiction if one were to be sought. And from there it degenerates into including comments from the likes of Ken Livingstone. I mean, that was a piece written by Sarah Bosley to discredit the impact that I was having, especially in my campaign against the racists at the Stratford School in the London Borough of Newham. And they tried their best to actually undermine the main campaign purpose, which they never could undermine because it's absolutely typically with my campaigns based on the absolute truth. Now, they got Ken Lyons to Livingstone, one, and then they got a woman called Daphne Gould. Now, Daphne Gould was a racist who forever was the head teacher of the girls' school, HAMLETS girls' school, the Marlbury School, which I saved from being destroyed by merging it into a from turning it from a single-sex girls' school into mixed-sex school. And what they have tried and they failed to actually identify is any moral, ethical, democratic inconsistency or contradiction in my work, which I do, which I have been doing for decades. So, what Ken Lyons to Livingstone was quoted as saying by Sarah Bosley was that because I criticized what they were doing, like the GLC, nobody was supporting me in the community. Now, I'll come to that nobody supporting me in the community bit later. What Ken Lyons to Livingstone was trying to say was that I was the only one who was opposing his corruption of the GLC, corruption of democracy, and therefore he had to do something to undermine me. As I said earlier, he hired 5 or 6 extra security thugs to stop me entering the GLC's headquarters, which is County Hall. So he said to the Sarah Bosley, the Guardian, that nobody else was agreeing with me. So the claim by Ken Lyons to Livingstone went on. We ignored him. Now think about that. This is happening. This conversation with Sarah Bosley of the Guardian and the Ken Lyons to Livingstone was happening sometime in March, or late February or early March 1992, when I was at the height of the campaign against the racists over the Stratford School in Newham. But the Stratford School was not just one school. It was an ideological divide. It was a part of the two approaches to managing schools and governing schools in the UK. One was the secondary schools being controlled by local councils or the LEA, local education authorities. And the other was the grant maintained school, that is the out of the local authority controlled schools, which was the mode that the Stratford School was being used for. So when they had this opt out school, that is the description, they had a governing body. They had to have a governing body. And the governors included had to be from parents, others, but mainly parents of children attending the school. And this was where the actual fight between the parent governors and the school's head teacher, Anne Smelling. I spell it again, Smelling. Her name is Anne Snelling, but I edited it to call Anne Smelling because she smelt of racism. So Anne Smelling, on the one hand, and a Pakistani born man called Ghulam Rasool Shaida, who was a parent governor, who was the chair at the time of the school governors at the Stratford School. Now, when Anne Smelling versus the governors were having the tussle, the local education authority, which would have been otherwise involved, was not involved, not directly anyway. The Newham local authority was looking from a distance and was waiting for the collapse of the school. That is what they wanted to do, because they couldn't politically, ethically, morally, or democratically organize a genuine, credible critique of the school system, that is the opt out school model. They wanted an indirect way, indirect force to destroy the school, which is cowardly and stupid and typical of the Labour Party's moral bankruptcy. So, what happened when Ghulam Rasul Shahida was being interviewed as part of the kind of resistance by Anne Smelling? He was also interviewed by the London Evening Standard, and an Indian complete moron wrote in the piece that he published about the dispute between the governors and Smelly, that the governors were actually motivated by extreme fundamentalist Muslim extremism. Nothing could be further from the truth, because this man, Ghulam Rasul Shahida, although he was formally educated in Pakistan, he had absolutely no idea about the political intricacies and details of Britain. And secondly, he could not be bothered about any Islamic fundamentalism. He wasn't. So what happened immediately as I saw the item mentioning him, Ghulam Rasul Shahida, as being motivated by Islamic extremism, I knew that they were trying to derail the parents' campaign, the governor's campaign, by discrediting it by associating it with the Islamic fundamentalists, which is complete rubbish. On that point, I immediately made a statement, an intervention, and I published a statement in my capacity as the leader of the London Collective of Black Governors. And as soon as I did that, this was picked up and this became the focus. I became the focus immediately rather than Ghulam Rasul Shahida. And because I became the focus, all the creeps in the Department for Education and all the other parts of the UK establishment knew who I was. And so, therefore, they became mobilizing. They started mobilizing in order to discredit my campaign. They thought it was revenge for them. Now, we shall come to that later, but they shouldn't be motivated by revenge, because they should be encouraging educational transparency and partnership and all the rest of it. But they were far from that. They wanted to isolate me politically and to depict me as somebody who didn't have the support in the community. Of course, I didn't have the support in the community. There doesn't exist a political community either in the Newham Borough or any other borough based on the demography of the people coming with Pakistani or Bangladeshi or Indian kind of backgrounds. This is not how the politics is organized in the United Kingdom. So everything I do and everything I have done has been done based on the empirical evidence right in front of me, and evidence that can be tested by checking the facts of the behavior of the mainstream political elements and participants and players. Nothing to do with the community, because if you looked at the community, you would find people seeking for their own little kind of benefits, individual benefits, which is how the Livingstone, the liar, and others of his ilk prefer to do things, which is how later, many years later now, 2010, and you go back to 1992, how many years is it? 2010 and 1992, 18 years. 18 years later, Ken Livingstone became party to promoting the Jamaat-e-Islami faction in Tower Hamlets, operating according to the description published on the Dispatches program broadcast on the 1st of March 2010 as fronted by Andrew Gilligan. The Jamaat-e-Islami faction was operating wearing the guise of a thing called Islamic Forum Europe. I never know who Islamic Forum Europe was or is or had been, But that is what the program said. And Islamic Forum Europe was nothing if not an extension of the Jamaat Islamist operations, as I said. And so, therefore, Ken Lyons to Livingstone got involved with the Islamic Forum Europe in controlling the politics of the London Borough of Tower Hamlets. And he became the main kind of, how shall I say, the role model for these artificial individuals, because for the Jamaat Islam in the Islamic Forum Europe, any role model who was white would do, because they are the ultimate mental slaves who don't have any respect, recognition, regard for independent anti-imperialists, independent, most certainly they don't have any respect for Muslims fighting for freedom against the colonialists. So they thought that Ken Lyons to Livingstone, it's a it's a shirk they were committing, of course, because they treated Ken Lyons to Livingstone as a kind of deity, because he was Ken Lyons to Livingstone. He had been the leader of the GLC and he had been more relevant to them because they were not around politically when the GLC was operating. So they knew about the mayor of London. So when he became mayor of London in 2000 and then again in 2004, they could relate to that in terms of temporal kind of relevance. So they welcomed Ken Livingstone Livingstone's support for this infliction of the anti-democratic elected man. Now, this edition, this particular bulletin will have to end because of time factor. We shall continue on the very theme that I have started in the next editions in due course.